3, 2, 1.
International superstar, Miss Mother B.
You are now tuned in to Butter Bee Rocker on Transparency Talks Podcast.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Transparency Talks Podcast. I am your girl, Butterby Rocka. Listen, we have an amazing show for you today, but before I bring on my special guest, I want to thank you guys so much for supporting my film, Finding the Perfect Guy. It is now streaming on 26 streaming platforms, so I'm super excited. I check every Thursday before I do the show to see what my numbers are looking like and if it's streaming on other platforms. So we're on number 26 right now. So thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for your support. We have our next BBR Indie Films coming up on May 15th. Tickets are still available. You can go online, see all of the panelists that we have coming up. You can go to www.bbrmediagroup.com. Once again, that's www.bbrmediagroup.com. But y'all did not come to speak to me. Y'all came to hear this man. He is a film and television producer and founder of the Peachtree Village International Film Festival. Can you please show some love for Mr. Len Gibson? Hello.
Hey, what's going on?
Oh man, how you doing, King?
Doing well, Queen. How are you?
I am doing good. You know, Lynn, every time I see you, I get super excited because I met you a couple of years ago at an event and you just had this spirit about you. You was dropping so much knowledge and you was very approachable to us new filmmakers and everything. So I just want to tell you from the bottom of my heart, thank you, because everybody, you know, isn't so nice when people are just getting started. And you was one of those guys for years now that have been supportive. And anytime I've had a question or anything, you've always been there to answer me. So thank you.
No problem at all. I mean, just a humble servant. Do what I can.
Absolutely. So what I like to do is, can you tell everybody a little bit of background about yourself?
Sure. I'm based in Atlanta. Been in the film and television business for about 23 years now. It's kind of weird when I say that. And I've done everything in television and film from writing to directing and everything in between, but primarily I'm a producer. We also distribute content as well. So we produce, finance, and distribute primarily as a company. And I founded the Peachtree Village International Film Festival along with my partner, James J.B. Brown, 19 years ago. So we were celebrating our 19th anniversary with the film festival this year, the Peachtree Village International Film Festival. And, just excited about everything that's happening, for my company, the festival, and the business. It's an exciting time to be in the film business.
Absolutely. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back a little bit. Okay. So what made you catch the bug of writing, directing, and all of the in between?
Wow, it's always been something that was exciting to me. Grew up in a really small town, grew up in Manning, South Carolina, small town. So for me, seeing, African American faces in magazines like Ebony Jet, watching, television series and movies that I enjoyed, being a huge fan of, just seeing beautiful black faces on TV. And I love all cultures, but, just saying in general, it was important to me to see people that look like me,
Mhm.
on the silver screen, and on television. And from there, I just had a huge, affinity for, entertainment. And I just, just really started to look into what it would take to be a part of that, right? and I started writing initially. I wrote a lot, won a couple of small competitions, in school, became the editor of my school paper. And then I got a journalism scholarship, a partial journalism scholarship, and I went to High Point University. And that's when I really dug into writing, not only from a media standpoint, but learning how to screenwrite. I wrote my first screenplay, and that first screenplay was entitled A Letter from Miami, and it led to an internship with Spike Lee, and that led to me having an opportunity to just learn all aspects of production, and I found my way. I just fell in love with producing, and since then I've been on this wonderful ride, this journey, and I love it.
It sounds like an amazing journey. To have an internship with Spike Lee, tell me about that process because I'm sure you got to learn a lot.
I did. What's interesting about the whole process is this. It wasn't a situation where I was in the office with Spike every day. Um, but Spike is known to have created and cultivated, um, you know, hundreds of great talent over the years, whether in front of the camera or behind the camera. And I got an opportunity to work with a lot of great people that worked with Spike, that Spike taught and mentored. During the time I was at 40 Acres, one of the special things was he wasn't producing any content at the time, but what he was doing was developing content. He was
Mm.
developing the Joe Lewis story, which to this day is still not on the screen. He was developing Rent, which, as we know, Spike ended up not doing Rent. But he also produced Inside Man. He was developing Inside Man at the time. And this was years before Inside Man came to the screen. But what was interesting about that process, I learned a couple of things. I learned that you can't put all your eggs in one basket, right?
Mm.
Two, I just learned how to adapt. So for me, I wanted the hands-on experience, you know, on production, and that's when a good friend of mine, still to this day, Jason Lampkin, who was Spike's right hand man, said, "Hey, Len, you need to be out in the streets, working with all these great producers and directors, cinematographers that Spike, mentored, and he connected me with people like Michael Boogie Pinkney, T. Smith, all of these guys who I'm still very cool with and still work with to this day. And I got, my feet wet, and I learned a lot, and it was a great experience. I wouldn't take it for anything.
That's wonderful. What motivated you to transition from writing producer to also becoming an educator and inspiring other filmmakers?
Well, I mean, for me, it was really just what I've experienced personally. So throughout the process of my career, I've always, was the person that picked up the book to learn myself. Not saying that I wasn't taught by anyone else. I had a lot of great mentors, a lot of great individuals that assisted me, over the years. But one thing I learned is that, you got to take the initiative, right, to
Mhm.
do it yourself. And I didn't want everyone to have to go through the same process that I did necessarily. It was hard, it was a tough thing. It was a challenge. And not saying that you want to make it really easy for anyone else either, because everyone, need to basically go out there and get their bumps and bruises as well, so that they'll learn, how to correct those mistakes and move forward. But um, for me, it was, how can I share the best practices? How can I share the knowledge that I've learned? What can I do to help make it easier for someone else? And that's when I decided to teach screenwriting, to teach producing. And I started teaching classes. I worked at Clayton State as an instructor. I was a professor
Hmm.
there for a few years, and I loved it. I just loved, working with young minds, even older adults. I mean, I had attorneys in my classroom, but I also had, 19, 20-year-olds in my classroom, 18-year-olds. So it was a lot of fun, to basically impart the knowledge that I've learned in my career, but to also learn from them. So it was a great experience. And and with the film festival in general, it same thing. I always wanted to be able to, one, give back, two, show a different way. A
Mhm.
lot of times, what happens is when individuals go to film festivals and they go to where you are, learning, from other filmmakers, learning from, other individuals in the business, a lot of times, unfortunately, it can become artificial because there's so much going on. So for me, my thing was, how can I do something authentic and at least create an opportunity for individuals to really have an environment that they're learning. You know, they are really learning, and they're going to leave, with something, with information, with the knowledge, with the education. It's going to help take their career to the next level. And that was my whole, interest in creating the film festival. And, so far so good. I mean, 19 years later, we're still here.
19 years later, y'all still doing the doggone thing. How'd y'all come up with the name?
Well, initially we were the Sweet Arbor International Film Festival, right? We were connected to the Sweet Arbor Spring Fest. And when we expanded and rebranded and became the Peachtree International Film Festival, it was a couple of reasons we chose the title, chose the name. I know it's a long name. And, we say PVIFF. So Peachtree, obviously, Atlanta is, the land of peaches, right? The state of Georgia. But the whole thing was the whole village atmosphere of it all came from the Cannes Film Festival.
Hmm.
And the reason for that is this. If you ever been to Cannes, if you ever been to just international festivals and conferences, one of the things that you learn is that it's like a village atmosphere, right?
Hmm.
You're working with individuals in your village. You're working with companies in your village and people within your village to create something beautiful. That's the first thing. The second thing is it takes a village. So for us, you can't create one person can't create a film. You can, but what kind of film will it be, right? With just one.
Right.
The second part of it is we know that to create something great, it takes teamwork and it takes a village. So that's where the village component came in at. And we created the Peachtree Village International Film Festival. And we're international. We're not just, a black festival. We're not just a brown festival. We're international.
You just made me think about something. So with my BBR indie films, I also created it as a bump in the road. I mean, I had so many bumps in the road getting to doing my very first film that I wanted to be able to help other people and bring out different panelists and different things like that too, to help indie artists, right? But I also have now featured some international artists. So, okay, now I know I'm considered international. So thank you
Yeah,
for
there you go.
I just showed a Chile film, a foreign film from Chile. So yeah. Oh, that's
There you
really
go.
cool. So what kind of stories do you aim to showcase at your Peachtree Village?
We aim to show, to screen, to showcase films and television projects, web series, even screenplays that appeal to a broad audience.
Okay.
Our thing is it's not necessarily a project that we personally would like or experience. It's all about our audience, right? Because as a filmmaker, you're creating content for individuals that's going to support it out in the world. So, out in the world, in our sense, is our audience. So, everything, it's not just, dramas, it's not just comedies, it's not just horror films or thrillers, it's everything. And the type of film or the type of projects that we tend to um, showcase are projects, again, that has broad appeal. And we've screened everything under the sun. Indie films to box office hits. So for us, it's just, what's that project that's going to connect with the audience that we have that frequent, that attend, that comes to PVIFF.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do you think is the biggest challenge that filmmakers face today?
Financing.
Amen.
Financing. I mean, finance and distribution. I mean, those are two things that comes, hand in hand, right? Um, from the finance side, it's the reason why finance, in my opinion, is ahead of distribution today is because we live in a world, where we have the internet. So you can distribute, content pretty simply, but it's how you distribute it, and are you putting it in a position where you're monetizing, you know, the content in the right way. But definitely finance is still, a challenge, in today's marketplace.
Correct. Okay. And your company produces projects. So how does one submit to you, and what would they need to do to submit? Like what would they have to have in their pitch deck?
Well, the thing is, we've been, really keenly focused on producing content internally this year, our own content. Not saying that we don't produce other content,
Hmm.
but we really like projects that are family friendly, uh,
Hmm.
inspirational in tone. We like to produce films, or we like to get involved with films and television projects that really attracts three generations in a household.
Mm.
And the reason for that is, one, we have enough of the other stuff on television and film these days. Two, um, when you think about the success of films, the most successful films normally in the marketplace works for three generations, in households, because that means that your mom, your dad, your grandparent, and your children can all watch it, right?
Mhm.
And it's the same across. You may get a different message, out of it from each generation, but it still appeals to each generation. And that's the type of content that we tend to gear, to have more attraction towards. But at the same time, we do look at a variety of different projects as a whole,
Mhm.
because we do keep our ear to the street, obviously, of what's going on in the marketplace. Action films are always hot. And, when it comes to financing, distributors and financiers, they're often interested in action films. Even though if we get involved with action film, we like films with good messages anyway,
Mhm.
regardless, right?
Mhm.
Thrillers. So there are certain films that are more attractive to distributors and to financiers.
Mm.
And for us, projects that have attachments, bankable attachments, are always, important to us, unless we're developing the project with you. But if you're bringing it to us to produce, we ask that you meet us halfway by at least having the right talent attached, or at least have an idea of what plan you want to take together, so that we can step in and help you. But if you came to us with just a script and asked us to develop it and produce it, we can do that as well. But obviously, it's a longer road to do that, and we have to figure out what the economics look like.
Makes sense. Definitely makes sense. And you look like you're in your car right now.
I am. I'm on set right now, actually, just outside of a restaurant. We're shooting a new series, entitled Southern Culinary Love. It's about a couple that owns 7 restaurants. They own quite a few here in the Atlanta metropolitan area, and they own one in Valdosta, and they're opening their first restaurant in Las Vegas.
Oh,
So
nice.
we created a show with them, and we're excited about it. It's gonna be different. Not your average. It's not gonna be ratchet.
So we are talking to Mr. Len Gibson. I'm not sure what just happened to the power or anything, but he is a film and television producer and founder of Peachtree Village International Film Festival. Hopefully the sound and everything is going to be coming back on here because I am not sure what just happened. But since we cannot get him back on the call, we're going to end it for here and we'll pick back up later, guys. So I am going to talk to you guys later. Again, we have been talking to Mr. Len Gibson. Hopefully you can hear me, but he can't. It looked like it's stuck. You know, internet, we're live streaming. So sometimes the internet has issues and suddenly he stopped talking. So that's what's happening. So anyway, guys, we thank you so much for tuning in to Transparency Talks podcast. We come to you each and every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will see you next week. Peace.